You said commodities get no respect. So almost 20 years later, has that changed, Jim, today?
No, they still get no respect. Most commodities, certainly not now. I mean, there have been periods. I mean, oil went to 150 for a minute, for a day. Yes, things do happen. But for the most part, people have ignored commodities again. But don't worry, they'll be back, especially if we keep printing money the way we're printing money. And especially if economies keep collapsing. Nobody can go to work. Now, that cuts demand, but it also cuts supply eventually. And if they keep printing money, the demand will be there.
And of course, commodities is such a broad basket of goods here. But when I say, the word respect, if we look at, for example, gold, we've seen Wall Street heavyweights recently step into the gold market who perhaps never liked gold. So is that telling now, Jim?
Well, in my view, Daniela, we are now having another move in gold. As you know, I started buying gold again in 2019, the last summer of 2019, and this is going to go on for a while. So yes, you have to have heavyweights come in to keep the move going. You have to have a lot of new people come in, and they will be back. Don't worry, they will be back. One of the things about markets is many people don't want to buy until they're moving. That's not the way you're supposed to invest. You're supposed to buy low, but a lot of people like to see it moving, and then they jump in. So they'll be here. They're coming. Don't worry.
Jim, it is indeed a volatile times we are living in right now. Layoffs, people afraid of recession, losing their job, inflationary fears. If I had to ask you 3 tips for investors watching right now.
Watch Stansberry Research.
1.
Watch Danielle own Stansberry Research.
Every day.
Watch it whenever you can. 2, learn about gold and silver, because gold and silver are probably going to go into maybe even a period of, maybe a mania even, I hope not, because I don't want to have to sell my gold and silver, but you should learn about it. And you should learn about what's happening in the world. Daniela, I am always startled at how few people are aware of what's happening. The United States is the largest debtor nation in the world by many factors, and we keep adding staggering amounts of money to our debt. This has always ended badly. I mean, it's not just the US, the Japanese, oh my gosh, those guys, the head of the Bank of Japan goes to work every morning early, cranks up the printing presses, prints as fast as he can. He wants to print unlimited, that's his net worth, unlimited amounts of money, and buy stocks and bonds and ETFs. I mean, this is going to end very, very badly when it ends.
Sticking to the topic of advice here, Jim, I was reading that one of the best things you were ever told was on a flight. And someone said, I think you had said, what do I look, how should I be investing? What do I do? And you were sitting next to a gentleman who said, well, read the annual report, and that will already be 95% more than what most Wall Street types do. If you read the footnotes, that's 100% more than what most people do. So going back to what you're saying about educating yourself, does that still ring true today for you?
Oh, absolutely. Some people will watch a TV show and think they know something, think they have learned and understand, or they will read a book and think they understand what's going on. No, I hate to say it, Danielle, I've been investing a long time, and I'm still, to this day, shocked at how little people know, much less how little they understand about the world, about money, and about investing.
Here we are, 5 weeks away from the election, around the corner. The Fed finds themselves really in an inescapable trap here, Jim. How do you think things play out from here?
Daniela, there is an election coming up, and all the people in Washington will do anything they can to get reelected. Democrats, everybody, that's their job. That's what they think of as their job, to get reelected. So who knows what kind of news is going to come in the next few days, few weeks. You should be worried about after. You should be worried about 2021. But in the meantime, politicians all over the world are doing their best, and central bankers all over the world are doing their best to keep this madness going.
So if they're willing to do anything, is the worst of the market correction behind us for now?
Danielle, you know I'm the world's worst market timer. Ask Porter.
But
Ask Porter Stansberry. Ask those guys at Stansberry. They know a lot of stuff. They're very good at this. I'm not.
So Jim, right now, considering gold's at all-time highs now, and based on what you've taught me before, can I safely assume you're not buying right now? Are you buying gold?
I bought a little bit today, just so tiny it's not even worth mentioning. I bought a little more silver today. You know, it's nighttime in Asia now, so we're ahead of you. I'm not jumping in with both feet by any stretch of the imagination, but I plan to buy a lot more gold and silver over the next year or two.
Let me ask you this, because you know, one thing I've noticed during this pandemic, Jim, is I think a lot of people have a lot more time. They're at home and they're thinking a lot about many more things. And one thing they're looking at is their dollar bills and thinking, what is the real value behind this? Do you think that more people are embracing or wanting to learn more about alternative assets like Bitcoin, like gold?
There are more people. Gold is, made all-time highs 2 or 3 weeks ago. So somebody is looking at it and thinking about it. Yes, of course, but not nearly enough. I mean, very few people. Gold is down 10% already from its all-time highs. So most people do not have a clue. Most people want their congressman to spend more money for them. That's unfortunately the way most people think, and they don't understand the consequences. I mean, Daniela, it's a wonderful time to be old in North America. Young people have a bleak future. I have 2 teenage children. Oh my gosh, what the world that they're inheriting 5 years from now, 10 years from now, somebody's going to say, wait a minute, look at all this debt. What do we do about all this debt?
Wow, that's a really, it's just such a scary thought, Jim. And what about also the way we work, right? This pandemic has completely revolutionized, the concept of office spaces and whatnot. How will that look in the future?
Well, I'm not in the States, but what I read and when I speak to friends in New York, I hear that there's a lot of empty space now, and it's not just temporary anymore. A lot of shops in New York are boarded up, and many of them are not going to come back, many restaurants. So there are changes taking place in the world. Anytime there's a crisis, it opens people's eyes to a lot of things, and they think new thoughts and new ways of doing things. And some of them are moving. Some of them are going to move to Miami.
Right.
They're going to pay New York taxes. Some of them are going to move to Texas. They don't want to pay California taxes. So it's causing lots of movement.
So if retail will be beaten down and real estate, would that be a buying opportunity?
What, for Amazon? Or to buy a shop? To
buy, like if you want to buy the space that you could lease one day or whatnot, would that be a buying opportunity or no? Because who knows when they
I would not now, Daniela, I would not, because I expect eventually we're going to have a very, very serious bear market and a very bad economy for a while. In 2008, we had problems because of too much debt. Daniela, since 2008, the debt has skyrocketed, staggering amounts all over the world. Even China didn't have any debt in 2008. They spent a lot of money, helped save. Even China has debt now. So no. I would suspect that your buying opportunity is going to be when you see horrible, horrible economic news.
So will it be the next Great Depression?
Oh, I'm not smart enough for that. I suspect it's going to be the worst in my lifetime, yes. Because Daniela, the debt, I just said, the debt was terrible in 2008. Yep. Oh my gosh. The debt since then is sky.
It's nothing. That looks like nothing today.
Yeah, I was going to say in the last 3 months alone, America's had huge amounts of debt compared to what it did before. So no, it's going to be much worse.
It's extremely frightening, Jim. I want to end, and I wanted to share something with you that I've never shared with you before. We were at a show together in Las Vegas a few years ago. I want to say about 5-6 years ago. You were a keynote speaker there. And I remember I was walking home back to the hotel. I was behind you. And I didn't want to bother you because you were so, taking in that moment. And here, here's Jim Rogers walking walking the strip, in his suit, in his signature bow tie. You had your hands behind your back, and you were, looking at the lights, looking at the people around you. And that image has remained in my mind. And I just always wanted to know in that moment, what is Jim Rogers thinking?
Well, at that time, and always, I have learned, for whatever reason, try to look and watch and see. Most people go to Las Vegas and say, oh my gosh, look at that. But I have learned, no matter where I am, whether it's Paris or whatever, Brooklyn, anywhere, to try to just look and observe. You may not see anything, but if you see something, and if you're being attentive, if you have your antenna open so that you can see, who knows what you're going to see. You might see something that's significant, or you might see some change. The most important thing that I look for is change. You don't see it very often, but when you do, Daniela, you should think about it and act and do research. So I know that when I go to a place like Las Vegas, especially to a show, I'm trying to look and observe and see what's going on.